Shen family, it is said that there was a scholar's son by the Jing River, whose surname was Shen. His family was very poor, and they even had no rice for cooking all day long. The couple was relatively depressed and couldn't think of any solution. The wife said, "Why don't you go steal?" Shen said angrily, "It's okay if the descendants of scholars can't honor their ancestors. But how can they destroy the family and humiliate their ancestors? It's better to starve to death than to live as a robber." The wife also said angrily, "You want to live but are afraid of being embarrassed. There are only two ways to live without property in the world. You can't be a robber, and I have to be a prostitute." Shen was furious and followed the wife started to quarrel, and she went to bed angrily. Shen thought, a man who can't even earn 2 meals and makes his wife become a prostitute is really worse than death. He quietly got out of bed, went to the yard, and hung himself on a tree. Suddenly he saw his dead father coming and admonishing him, "Silly boy, why are you doing this?" After saying that, he broke the rope on which he was hanging, and said, "The robber might as well do it once, but he must choose a place with dense crops. A place to hide. You can make a fortune this time, so there's no need for a second time." The wife suddenly woke up when she heard the sound of something falling to the ground in the yard. "I called my husband, but when I saw no answer, I lit a lamp and looked for him." When they walked into the yard, they saw a broken rope on the tree and Shen was dead on the ground. His wife was very shocked. She hurriedly massaged him, and it took a while for Shen to wake up. His wife helped him lie down on the bed, feeling relieved. After dawn, the wife pretended that her husband was sick and went to a neighbor's house to borrow some porridge for her husband to eat. After Shen finished eating, he went out. By noon, I came back with a bag of rice. When his wife asked where the rice came from, Shen said, "My father's friends are all rich people. In the past, I thought it was too shameful to beg for mercy, so I didn't bother to ask for help. Now I am going to be a robber right away. Why do I care about my face? Hurry up and cook. I will listen to you right away and go rob." His wife thought he was still angry with her, so she held back and did not say anything back. After scouring the rice and cooking, Shen had a full meal. He hurriedly found a strong stick, chopped it into a wooden stick with an axe, held it in his hand and laughed. Seeing that he didn't seem to be joking, his wife hurriedly grabbed him. Shen said, "You asked me to go. If I get caught and implicate you, don't regret it." He broke free from his wife's hand and went straight out. After dark, Shen went to a neighboring village and hid more than a mile away from the village. At this time, a heavy rain suddenly fell from the sky, and Shen was completely soaked. Seeing a dense forest in the distance, he walked over to take shelter from the rain. With a flash of lightning, Shen found himself approaching the village. There seemed to be pedestrians in the distance. He was afraid of being seen. Seeing the lush crops under a wall, he hurriedly hid inside. After a while, a man with a strong and tall body came over and got into the crop field. Shen was afraid and did not dare to move. Fortunately, the man stepped in from the side. Shen saw the man climbing over the wall in the dark and thought to himself, "On the other side of the wall is the residence of the Qiong family, a wealthy family in the village. This man must also be a robber. When he steals something, I should share it with him." Then I thought, "This man is too strong. If I ask for it politely, if he doesn't give it, he will definitely use force. I am no match for him. It's better to wait for him to jump out of the wall and knock him over unexpectedly." The plan has been made, hidden and waiting for a long time. It was only when they heard the rooster crow that they saw the man jumping out of the wall. Before his feet even touched the ground, Shen suddenly jumped out and swept away with a stick, hitting the man's waist and causing him to fall to the ground. Shen took a closer look and saw that the man was actually a big turtle with a mouth as big as a basin. Shen was shocked and hit it again and again, finally killing it. It turns out that the Qiong family has a daughter who is very smart and beautiful, and her parents treat her like the apple of their eye. One night, a man suddenly came in and forced her to have sex. When her daughter was about to scream, the man's tongue had already entered her mouth. She immediately passed out and left unconscious, letting the man mess with her. The Qiong family was ashamed to tell others about this, so they sent many slaves. and women to guard their daughter and locked the door tightly. But at night, the door opened again unconsciously. As soon as the man entered the house, everyone immediately fell unconscious, and the slaves and women were raped one by one. So everyone became afraid and went to tell Old Man Qiong. Old Man Qiong asked his family members to hold sharp knives and surround his daughter's bedroom. He also asked the people in the room to light lamps and sit and guard her. About midnight, all the people guarding him inside and outside suddenly seemed to be asleep. After a while, I suddenly woke up and saw the Old Man Qiong's daughter lying naked, as if she was in a daze. It took a long time to wake up. Old Man Qiong was very angry, but he couldn't think of a way. A few months later, my daughter was so sick that she was skin and bones and was dying. Old Man Qiong told everyone that anyone who could drive away monsters would be rewarded 300 taels of silver. Shen had heard about this incident in the past. After beating the turtle to death that night, he realized that it must be this thing that harmed the Qiong family's daughter, so he went to the Qiong family to ask for a reward. Old Man Qiong was overjoyed and invited him to the table. He also had the dead turtle carried to the yard and cut off piece by piece. Liu Shen spent the night, and as expected, there were no monsters that night. Old Man Qiong gave him 300 taels of silver as a gift, and Shen returned home with the silver on his back. Shen's wife was worried and looking forward to her husband's absence from home. For 2 consecutive nights when her husband suddenly came back, his wife hurriedly asked him where he had gone, but Shen remained silent and poured all the money he was carrying on the bed. When the wife saw it, she was almost scared to death and said, "Have you really become a robber?" Shen said, "You forced me to do it, and now you say such things." The wife cried and said, I'm kidding you. Now that you have committed the crime of murder, I can't be implicated by the thief. Let me die first." With that, he ran out the door. Shen hurriedly chased her out, dragged her back with a smile, and told her in detail about hunting turtles for reward, which made his wife happy. After that, Shen and his wife used the money to work hard and gradually became a wealthy family. The person who wrote this story believed that the thing worth worrying about is not poverty, but lack of character. People with good conduct will not die even if they starve. Even if they are not pitied by others, they will be blessed by ghosts and gods. Those poor people in the world are often greedy for profit and will not be ashamed to get a bite of food. People don't even bother to give them a penny, so how can they get the sympathy of ghosts and gods? There is a poor man named B in our county. The 12th lunar month is almost over and he still has no clothes on his body. I thought to myself, how can I survive the new year? He didn't dare to discuss it with his wife, so he quietly took a white stick and went out to ambush in a cemetery, hoping to meet someone walking alone and rob someone's belongings. I have been looking forward to it for a long time, but there is still no one there. The cold wind in the cemetery was biting, and he couldn't bear it anymore. He was feeling desperate when he suddenly saw a person walking over with a hunchback. Person B was secretly happy. When the man approached, he suddenly jumped out with a wooden stick in his hand and saw an old man carrying a bag on his back. The old man was startled, and when he saw that it was Jidao, he repeatedly begged to Person B, "I have nothing else with me, and my family is in trouble, so I borrowed these 5 liters of rice from my son-in-law's house." Person B took it away, bags of rice, and wanted to take off the old man's clothes. The old man begged, so he let him go because he was old, and only took the rice back home. When his wife asked him where he got the rice, he pretended that it was someone else's gambling debt. After this incident, B secretly thought that robbery would be a good idea, and he went to the cemetery again the next night. After staying for a while, I saw a man coming with a stick and hiding in the cemetery. Person B squatted and looked at him from a distance. He knew in his heart that he was also a Jidao, so he walked over hesitantly. When the man saw him, he asked in surprise, "Who are you?" Person B replied, "Walking." The man asked again, "Why don't you leave?" Person B said, "Waiting for you." The man laughed out loud and understood that the person coming was also of the same way. The two of them each talked about the pain of hunger and cold. After late at night, without meeting anyone, Person B wanted to go back. The man said, Although you are in this line of work, it seems you are just a youngster. There is a family in the former village who married their daughter and took care of it until midnight. At this time, the whole family must have fallen asleep from exhaustion. Come with me. We will split the money half and half. Person B was overjoyed and followed him. When they came to the door of a house, they heard the sound of beating cakes from next door. Knowing that the person had not gone to bed, they hid and waited. After a while, a man opened the door and came out with a bucket to fetch water. The two took the opportunity to sneak in. I saw that there was a light in the north room, but the other rooms were dark. At this time, I heard an old woman's voice saying, "Sister, go to the east room and have a look. Your dowry is in the cabinet. Did you forget to lock it?" Then I heard a girl's lazy reply. The two of them were secretly happy and went into the east room again. I touched the cabinet in the dark, opened the lid and took a look, but I couldn't see the bottom. The man then said to person B, "Go in." Person B jumped into the cabinet and handed out the packages one by one. The man asked, "Is it over?" Person B said, "It's over." The man lied to him and said, "Touch it again," taking advantage of B's unpreparedness. He closed the lid of the cabinet, locked it, and laughed. Person B was locked in the cabinet. He was embarrassed and anxious and couldn't think of a solution. After a while, I saw the light of a lamp in the house. Someone shined a light on the cabinet and heard the old woman's voice saying, "Someone has locked it." So the mother and daughter turned off the light and went to bed. Person B was so anxious that he imitated the sound of a mouse gnawing something. Just listen to the girl say, "There is a mouse in the cabinet." The old woman said, "Don't bite your clothes. I'm very tired. You go and see for yourself." The girl got dressed and got out of bed, opened the lock and opened the cabinet, and someone B suddenly jumped out. The girl was so frightened that she fell to the ground, and person B took the opportunity to open the door and escape. Although I didn't get anything, I was lucky not to be caught. The news that this family's home was stolen during the night immediately spread throughout the country. Someone suspected B, so B was frightened and fled more than 100 miles east, where he was hired by a hotel owner. More than a year later, when the rumors subsided, he came back to pick up his wife and stop stealing. This incident was narrated by person B himself. Because it is similar to Shen's story, I wrote it down together.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.